Good evening. I'm back with the part two continuation of the first unit of theory of architecture. I would like to screen share again. So, as you remember, we were talking about the different types of circulation, different types of entry and exits, how accessibility can work in the structure. So here you can see samples of how different entrances can be done, which will help us determine the configuration of the path and pattern of the activities of a space. So here you can see the opening is placed in the center of the structure. So here you can see it's off-centered. So likewise, it changes from one place to another. Here you can see there's some deep entrances, but also giving a closure and wide opening to the space. Here you can see it's on a raised level. So here you can see articulation done for the opening. So we call that as ornamentation or a decorative embellishments. Sorry. So these are the historical examples. This is the Piazza San Marco, where this is an opening space to a palace, and they also have the library on the right, and they also have entrance which is giving a grand opening with the two granite columns. This is the Tori gate. That's the first ever gate to the Toshiko shrine in Japan. So that is giving an opening, a large scale appearance for the structure. The next is the contemporary examples where you can see different building have different entrances and approaches. So there is always a configuration of a path when you do an accessibility to a structure. So here in this example, the path is very linear. So this configuration of the path is called the linear, where there's a straight approach, and you see a series of spaces that is placed on the either sides of the path. In addition to that, you will have curvilinear, segmented intersections. You will have branches or a looping out. So different forms of structures that have been added to the path. The next one will be the radial path. So where you can see from a center point, all of the linear paths are extending to a terminal at a central and also meet at a common point. So this is the example of the Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia. So this is the spiral evolution, where you can see a continuous path that keeps revolving around the center point and from the bottom to the top, and it keeps increasing the distance. So this is the Guggenheim Museum by Ethelbert. And the next you will have the grid pattern. So as you can see, grid and pattern, where a series of parallel paths intersect at regular intervals, which is 90-degree, and also create a square or a rectilinear fields of space. The next is the networking, which is the configuration that is connecting points, various points that have been interlinked or connected in a space. Composite. This brings a combination of different patterns, different preceding patterns, where important points are given as the centers of activity. You can see entrances, rooms and halls, stairways, everything, to avoid the disorientation of a maze, but also have an hierarchical order on the parts and nodes of a building, which is established by differentiating various scales, forms, length, and placements. So now we are going to see how the circulation will also have multiple combinations. So the first one will be the path space relationship, meaning pass by spaces. So you have spaces on either sides, and you can see we will pass through. So this configuration is very flexible, and it also have a meditating space, which will link the path with the spaces. The next is pass through spaces. So where you can see the spaces have been separated by the path, where you will just try to cross along. That is called the cutting through edge, cutting through a space. So this path creates movement, rest, and also combination of both. The next one is terminate. That is meaning the ultimate destination of the space. So you see large gardens, all this chat bar, all the concepts where you have huge gardens in the front, and the end destination, either it's Humayun's tomb, Taj Mahal. Those examples help us understand this is the termination of space. This how do these form of circulation spaces develop? So circulation spaces can also be an enclosed, can be an open gallery, or it can be linked with entrances or a wall plane. Second, you can see one side open and one side that is enclosed. Either it can be a balcony, either it can be a classroom space, or you can see one side is open and closed. On the last, you can see it's open on both the sides, where there's always visual connectivity passing through. So here you can see the compositions of different proportions that are acting. Here you can see there's a proportion of just one man standing and then three people together. So here you can see a space like a gallery where multiple people just have a glance. Whereas here you can see a public promenade where you will also have openness but also equally enclosed. So here you can see combinations of narrow and enclosed path, but here you can see how pass or reversing can also, resting can also happen. Here is view. Viewing is, I can see parallel sides, both the paths are widened and merged. So, when you talk about circulations, as I already told you, staircase, elevators, escalators, lifts are the medium of circulation from one above the other, from ground floor to first floor and the above floors. So, here's an example of how stairs or stairways are a vertical movement or a level of a building, all mezzanine levels from ground floor to first floor. And then the form of staircases that will be different, like how you can see in all this Harry Potter movies, where you can see different combination of staircase are being interlinked, and then the movement happens, where you also have a visual clue of which is the private, which is the public nature of space. And then landings. Landings are nothing but a resting place where instead of having a straight flight of more than 30, 40 racers, you'll always have a pause or a resting space every 20 meters, meaning every 20 steps, we will have a resting place and then you will start the flight again. So this is how landings also help us creating a pause. So as in building construction, we will detailedly study about how different staircases are being designed. So these are few examples: straight run, L-shaped, U-shaped, circular, spiral, different types of staircase. So it need not be just straight flight all the time. It can be different varieties of staircase shapes that we can try to use. So the last, we are also trying to have an understanding of what exactly is an expression. So we all are talking about the word called aesthetic. We are also trying to express the feeling of a building, which will eventually have an experience on the user. So here is the technique where they are trying to just interpret and transform the expression using art or a music or a sound or poetry. It can be any means or even literature. The style is the communication way where the outlook of the culture or the concept of what the architect is trying to emote. So that will be emoted through their visual representation in their build forms. So you can also see style is also one way of an expression. You can say classical, neoclassical, brutalism, contemporary, minimalism. All these are different types of expressions where the same structure without being replication, each and everything will be having a unique style of itself. It can replicate tradition. It can have an influence on contemporary expression, the cultural environment. It can be of any typical references, where we will also have distinct linguistical racial units, and we will have different expressions towards a region, town, group, architects, or even craftsmen. So expression also has different attributes by form. Here you can see, and this is an old setup of a building. And then this is by Daniel Lipskin, architect called Daniel Lipskin, where he is also trying to have a civic sense of the building, but trying to do some intervention to it where it looks very contrast to whatever is existing. So that can be the order and stability of the natural architectural assembly, where it's facilitating how compositionally you can try to bring unity in the structure. Expression and sincerity to its truth. We will always try to understand the architectural work by its form, volume, proportion, and also by the treatment of services, where the design itself gives more accessibility, openness, that front imageability of the structure, which is designed for public buildings and also has a great influence of the people. And also laconic expression, where we are trying to coexist with nature. We are trying to give an expression of how craftsmanship, talent, and also usage of different naturally available materials. We are trying to handle the architectural composition rules, where you can see form and function plays a major role. Variety, expression by variety is nothing but where you anticipate the use of diversity, contrast, and without just trying to replicate the fabric, do something very unique and very foregoing design. Not by too much exaggerating, but also trying to give a uniqueness where you have lack of unity and balance in your architectural composition. And then character speaks nothing about more about your man's needs, requirements of a building, and also architecture that's trying to compress the basic characteristics of solidity, utility, as aesthetics, and economy. Solidity is nothing but the depth of foundations, reaching a solid layer, wisely choosing the materials, durability of a material. So any structure that we build, it's not like a very short term, should also have a long lasting lifespan. So more than 100 years, 300 years, we also have structures that are still originally being retained in their true form. That's the durability. And mechanical resistance, where whatever we build will also be valued with the endurance level of a structure, where you have properly laid foundations, walls, pillar, beams, and columns, which will be under proper functioning and have a simple application of their building. That will also effect on their stability of the structure to maintain their shape and position in the same form like how it was built. Utility is nothing but a division that allows the proper usage of rooms, whatever we are just billing for, which is exactly of the same measured allotment, where it's been truly used as its purpose. Basically, in other words, it's also the ideal effectiveness and functionality of the build space defines its utility and can be judged. So utility can also be the have certain issues that can be handled, connection of rooms, making sure the accessibility is uniformly done in horizontal and vertical manner in the interior of the building, and also have proper hygienic and physical conditions where you can see people working, relaxing, trying to talk about shelter, food preparation, hygiene, and storage. Aesthetics. So we have discussed much about aesthetics, which is also the highness of how beauty and expression standards can be done. So this is an example of your Antonio Gaudi's buildings, where he is always talking about the calmness, joy that you can see, but also the complexity of the structure, like how he takes inspiration from human body and how bones, skeletals, all this can be transformed, which is the inspiration of a true nature, which has been expressed in its own way, where you can see shape, color, and decorations of certain space that are done. Economy. So here architecture is where you have the neglect of beauty and aesthetics, but give only importance to the functionality. So certain buildings, it can be construction where you will have excessive decorations, which will also lead to the dysfunctional and unaesthetic solutions. So in the next topic that we are going to see is the visual perception. So we are going to study about something called as the Jessol's theory. So this Jessol's theory is basically for us to understand what exactly is the visual perception. So how does it help us understand how visual delight or in beauty emerges and creates, where you can see first interrupt the visual stimuli. So here in Jessol's principles, you can see figure and ground, proximity, similarity, closure, symmetry, continuity, and simplicity. So here in this diagram, you can see a good figure where you can see what has been given importance. Proximity is nothing but the distance where the grouping happens and where also there is some seclusion. Similarity is how the objects are looking alike. Continuation is where two or more objects perceive to have a single uninterpreted object. Closure is nothing but trying to create a visual connection or the continuity between the set of elements. Symmetry is where most of it are identical. figure in ground. As you can see in this image, you can see fishes that have been there in the black, and also an invisible white space where that is also taking the shape of a fish. This is called as the figure in ground. That is nothing but the balance of the dark and light, black or white. So which is enhancing our vision to understand what exactly is the figure in ground. This also reminds like how composition is very important where we do not place. Proximity. So here you can see there is some spacing between one window. Here you can see two windows lined up together. Okay, so that is helping us understood how we separate the dots, and also see there is some grouping of dots that have been done. Similarity. So, like you see, everything is similar to one another. The distortion is all similar. Closure. So here you can see this is the CCTV headquarters building where it's looking like a loop, but also it's trying to create that void where there's a hollow space. So that is the purpose of regulating a surrounding stimuli. Symmetry. When you cut a building or any structure into half, you can see there is it's equal on both the sides. The reason is because two symmetrical elements are separate. The mind purposely connects them to form a familiar shape, so that seamlessly look very identical for us to do the group. Continuity. It's very seamless or very continuous. We also call that as sinuous, meaning it keeps on going. So two objects as two very single uninterpreted objects. Simplicity, where there is less room to talk about aesthetics, but also have unfamiliarity in their structure, where the mind tries to decrease the effort of processing what exactly is this complex, but visually the information is in a minimum in order for us to create a meaning. So by this, we are just trying to wind up the basic understanding of what exactly is visual perception, what the various topics of how circulation, architecture, structural components, all of this has helped us understand the basic fundamentals of theory of architecture. And thank you. I would also like to continue the second cycle in the upcoming videos. See you. Thank you.